So yeah, this is really important work. I mean, I just want to say why we do this these family-friendly sessions. And that's because, you know, when I did an MBA, you know, there was a lot of relationship fallout, including my first marriage as well. And I was pretty annoyed about that, because I thought the business schools had put us into a really unsustainable sort of position and sort of triggered all our most competitive and sort of performative streaks. And I thought, well, that's no way to teach. But the business school I was at said that they didn't think it was anything to do with them. And I thought, well, if I ever get a chance, we'll try and make a business school that acknowledges the damage that can happen to families through studying. And if you see my picture wobbling, it's simply because my dog has decided to walk on the table at this particular moment. Don't ask me why. You know, off, go. Okay. So we thought we would try and do something that would bring families into this, get students to understand that being a leader means that it's not just about you, it's about working with teams and the community and the people around you, to give families a chance to feel part of the process, and actually to get the educators to think, how can we design programs that really work with people's lives and balance, because we have such a challenging time these days, you know, before COVID, with balancing work and study and everything, family as well. So very tricky indeed. So this is why we have this series, a free series. We're going to do a lot more, I hope. Mamo, you're going to come up with brilliant ideas. So we're going to offer these, and we're going to ask you to bring your families, bring your partners, friends, anything you want to do to these sessions. We don't want to close off. We want them to be really helpful, and we want to get feedback. So Tamarr, thank you very much, who is, of course, a wonderful MBA example yourself. Thank you, Tamarr. Excuse me. Is going to talk about some ergonomics. Now, we are not offering advice, medical advice about the pandemic. I want to be absolutely clear about that. So nothing we're doing here is about, you know, vaccinations or no vax or infections or what to do about symptoms. This isn't that sort of process. We are very careful about offering medical advice, and we only go through a committee on which Laurie is a member, and we're very careful that we get the best possible advice. Not that this wouldn't be. I don't mean that. It's just that I'm sure Tamarr is extremely capable. But what it is about is, as Tamarr will explain, about how you can make your life better with the kind of physical conditions you end up with studying and working, like me. I mean, I'm always looking at my phone. I've got this stiff neck. I go to physio and I can hardly look around because I'm on my phone all day, you know. So I'm suffering from all these things. So Tamarr, I'm really going to listen to you. It's going to be great. And I hope we're going to record this as well after I've been waffling on, you know, take out this bit. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you will listen. It'll be helpful. Can I ask that you please engage, if you would like to, with Tamarr, and just throw questions in, and don't feel shy about questioning. You know, whenever I have what I think is a stupid question, I know it's probably the best question I can have. And I know that half the other people in the room are also dying to ask that, but don't want anyone to. Don't want to be the one who asks it. So ask the questions. If they seem stupid, ask it, because it's probably the best one of all. And everyone will be grateful to you. And when somebody asks a question you wish you'd answer, make lovely signals, wave on the screen, or send supportive emojis and things. So I'm going to get out of the way. Please use this. It's for free. We really want you to practice it. We're going to do more. And thank you, Mamo and team, for arranging this. Now, that's me taking up too much time. So bye-bye, and over to the main course. Thank you.
Thank you, John. You're on mute, Tamarr.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, John, for the introduction, and it's nice to have you join us. And before you entered, I was just saying that I'm just very grateful to have this opportunity, because I am passionate about helping people, even if it's just a little thing that you take away from today, and just remember it, and you know, pay it forward, and you can always, you know, expand that information to other people. And talking about people, you know, I'm looking at John's background, and it's reminding me of Henley's ethos is we build people who build businesses that build Africa. And I just want to highlight that word people, because people are always your biggest asset. And if you're not looking after people and you're not looking after yourself, then that's an asset that's in danger, right? And if we're not looking after people, we can't build businesses that build Africa. So I think this is a really, really good series, and it aligns with the ethos that Henley holds. So just wanted to make that comment. Okay, perfect. So in chatting about ergonomics in the pandemic, when I was chatting to Mamo about, what kind of topics we want to cover, health and wellness is it's a major topic. There is a lot to say. And so in an hour or 45 minutes, in thinking about what to present today, I was thinking, what can I give you that you can take home and actually use, some practical tips and some interesting things that you'll remember. And so as the presentation is going on, just keep that in mind. Obviously, as I said, wellness is it's a deep sea of information. And so if there's something you want to ask, like John said, please do ask it, and I'll do my best to give you the best possible answer to help you, or I'll refer you on or look for the answer for you. Okay, so ergonomics in the pandemic. Just some objectives for today. What I do not want to achieve today is to provide an overload of information that won't stick, as I said, because that's not going to help anyone. But what we do want to achieve today is to provide some helpful, memorable tidbits that will maybe change your lifestyle for the good. And I just want to mention Julian Day here, because in the beginning of the MBA, Julian Day did 2 evening lectures, which I attended, and some of the things really stood out to me. And one of the things he said is to think in pictures. When you visualize something, it's more likely to stick. And so hopefully I can help by doing that today and include lots of pictures, lots of things that will just burn in your memory, that when something comes up like a pain or a problem, hopefully that picture comes back to mind and it can just give you a tool to possibly deal with whatever you're facing. So Kelly Lamb defines wellness as the overarching goal of wellness. It's not merely about the absence of illness or stress. And that's quite a profound statement if you think of it. If you think of a scale, and being healthy is at 0 and being unhealthy is in the negative, do we really only want to be at 0, or do we want to be in the positive, which is where the wellness category sits? And my hope today is that not only can we help people to be healthy, but we can also push them into the positive wellness side of the scale. And as I said, health and wellness are 2 completely different things, yet they are so related. Okay. Sorry, let's get to the next slide. Okay, so just some trends and stats around the pandemic. I don't want to flood you with stats, but here are some interesting stats. A study of UK home workers found that there was a significant increase in musculoskeletal disorders and complaints, and more than half of them reported new aches and pains in the neck, shoulders, and back compared to their pre-pandemic physical activity. And that's massive. More than half of people have reported that. Most missed work days from musculoskeletal disorders are due to injuries that happen because of poor workplace design. Ergonomics is often described as a war of inches. And so even in tiny little minor adjustments, like for example, an adjustment made to a posture, it can result in major beneficial outcomes, or in the prevention of chronic problems, with your back, with your neck, with depression. There's been a huge link to your physical wellness and depression, never mind the pandemic. Just a little bit of humor here. When the company said we'd now be sharing cubicle space, this isn't exactly what he expected. Okay. So an analysis of data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, Liberty Mutual, and the National Academy of Social Insurance showed the following. Costs associated with musculoskeletal disorders during the first 3 quarters of 2020 surpassed the annual cost during each of the past 3 years. which is massive if you think about it. And so the reason I made that point is that not only does it affect our physical and mental and spiritual, all of that, and health, but it also is costly. It's costly to a person as an individual, and it's also costly to organizations. Researchers are estimating an increase of 16% in musculoskeletal disorder claims over the next 12 to 18 months, which is our current period. The study was done in 2020. And the average cost of an individual ergonomic claim in the US stands at around $17,000. If you think about that amount, that is huge. And obviously this makes ergonomic injuries very potentially a large expense for employers. So obviously this is in the US, and I think they claim a lot more than we would be able to in South Africa. But the point in making that statement is the rand value or the dollar value cost of poor ergonomics is absolutely massive. Okay, so how has the pandemic affected health and wellness? So some working from home KPIs, increased weight, increased screen time, and a huge reduction in attention. And I have physically seen these in my own private practice. Okay, so as I mentioned, lots of patients, and I can tell you specifically from March, when the initial lockdown happened, the third week of lockdown, that Friday was the busiest Friday I've had in my entire practice. And all I saw the entire day was neck pain, headaches, back pain, sciatica. So reduced muscle tone wasn't yet a problem because people had only been sitting for 2 or 3 weeks or increased their sitting, but this literally happened. And since the pandemic, in my private capacity, in my practice, I've seen mental illness, lots of depression, lots of loneliness, lots of anxiety. And then obviously, like we all know, there's been an increased financial burden from many different aspects, losing jobs, paying for medical treatment, paying for psychologists, paying for being ill. So it really has increased the financial burden. Okay, all of the above, they potentially lead to long-term disabilities for workers, and they affect businesses by workers' compensation claims, reduction in productivity, and impacting the actual quality of your work. So from a manager's perspective or a business owner's perspective, these are very important things to be looking at. And just as a side note, I'm actually doing my MRC on equity and health within organizations. And in interviewing all of these organizations locally and internationally, I was quite surprised at how many organizations aren't actually looking at wellness in their organizations. And so I hope today that if some of you are in a position to make some changes or increase the wellness of your staff, that you'll take something home from today. Okay, so never mind the pandemic, let's look at pre-pandemic. Top 5 industries with the most cases of musculoskeletal disorders annually. One would think that construction would be at the top, but if you have a look at the stats here, healthcare and social assistance, they're actually the biggest claims for healthcare. That is massive. And then retail is next, and then manufacturing is next. Again, we would think manufacturing might be a little bit higher up because of the physical labor involved. Transportation and warehousing, same thing. So it's quite interesting because I think organizations need to start looking at physically actually what their staff and the employees are having to do. So if you look here, 34% of all lost work days are due to work-related musculoskeletal disorder. That is massive. That is a third of all work-related work days. Work days that relate to absenteeism. That is a massive percent, and I think it's worth looking at. 60% of US computer workers complain of wrist pain, which is carpal tunnel most of the time. And that's because of the chronic typing and the chronic repetitive strain on their wrists. So again, I want to highlight the 60% because that is a massive percentage. Okay, so some movements that lead to ergonomic injury. Sorry, that's meant to say movements. I think there was an autocorrect there. So prolonged repetitive tasks. So you can see there with the conveyor belt, constant repetitive packing and taking things off, putting things back on. Number 2, which we're going to touch on a lot today, is sustained, awkward, or static postures. Number 3 is vibrations, it's very underrated. I can use my mom as an example. You know, she's had carpal tunnel disease. She's in the medical industry, and she's now moved to the UK where she's not driving a car. But in South Africa, she was driving a car and the gear stick vibrated, and she would be in agony at night when she came home because of the vibration of the gear stick, which aggravated her carpal tunnel. So if you're in an industry that vibration is a potential problem, it's something to definitely think about. And then number 4, obviously exerting too much force. And obviously in private practice, we spend a lot of time educating patients on how to lift things, to use your legs when you lift things, keep your spine in neutral. Don't lift and rotate at the same time, because all you need to do is put that disc out by 1 degree and you can cause a disc prolapse. Okay, so again, some interesting stats. Construction workers, 41.7% of them have back injuries, 12% of them have knee injuries, and 45% have arthritis. So that is massive, and there are 2 different types of arthritis. There's rheumatoid arthritis, and then there's osteoarthritis. And osteoarthritis is the wear and tear. It's like our bodies are like tires. You know, as we drive over time, the tires wear down, and so our bodies are the same. And construction workers are obviously doing physical labor, and therefore that statistic, 45% of them have osteoarthritis. Office workers, as I explained earlier, 60% of the US computer workers, wrist pain. Okay, health professionals I've touched on already, and cashiers and retail workers. They rank number 2 for the most instances of musculoskeletal disorders, and 31% of them exhibit symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome. Again, it's massive percentages, and we have to wonder, are our staff making us aware of these things? Okay, manufacturing ranks 3 for musculoskeletal disorders. Here's an interesting statistic. Most of us in South Africa are blessed enough to have a domestic lady or a cleaner helping us, cleaners within the organizations. 90% of them report with occupational musculoskeletal discomfort in at least one part of the body. So you can imagine these poor people must be in so much pain. Trucks, buses, and taxi drivers, 60%, again, lower back pain. And then we have to wonder, why are they getting low back pain? And the first go-to is that they're sitting for long periods. So how are they sitting? They're sitting in trucks where possibly the seats are getting old, maybe the seats aren't ergonomically viable. And so if you're in that industry, maybe it's something to think about. So pain related to ergonomics. In my private practice, the red symptoms are the symptoms that I've seen most. So tingling and numbness in the hands and feet. That is usually because a nerve is being pinched along the line somewhere. Inflammation is massive, which we're going to chat about a little bit later. Joint stiffness, which then leads to a reduced range of motion. Visual fatigue, that leads to headaches. And headaches are definitely also underrated. A lot of people just live with headaches, and there's so much that we can do to help with headaches. And one of the things is education around ergonomic workstations. As I mentioned earlier, it's inch by inch. You can literally change things by a couple of centimeters or millimeters, and you can change the whole biomechanics of your body. Okay, so working from home is the buzzword in the season that we're in this pandemic. So let's chat a bit about that. Some ergonomic tips for home and office use. Okay, let's talk about technology. If you do use a desktop computer or you attach an external monitor, attach a keyboard and a mouse to your laptop, because working with your hands close together on a laptop, it closes your range of motion, it pulls your shoulders in, it changes all the angles that are ergonomically unviable. If you don't have a monitor, then elevate your laptop so that you can promote an upright neck posture. When we are looking just slightly too down, it puts a massive load on our suboccipital area in the neck, and again, this leads to neck pain and headaches. Okay, when you're having calls or conferences, if you can, find some noise cancelling headsets just to minimize the distraction. assist with concentration. Okay, John, you touched on this a little bit earlier in terms of tablets and mobile phones. Continuously change your grip and your posture. So I can give you a prime example of this, and you may laugh at this example, but I have literally treated patients for Candy Crush injuries because they have been sitting for hours and hours and hours playing Candy Crush with the same repetitive motion. And so they come in with tendinitis, carpal tunnel. And so I want to encourage you that if you are on your phone or with the device often, just change your grip. Alternate between your thumb and your finger when texting. And another nice tip is to use a hands-free option where possible. In terms of lighting is important. We need a certain amount of light to actually see what we're doing so that we're not straining our eyes. But what a lot of us aren't quite dangerous. So we encourage patients to use some mini blinds, close the blinds altogether. Make sure you have some indirect light, but not too much light that is causing you to glare. Okay, body posture we're going to touch on a little bit later. Okay, so in terms of actual workstations, now this has been an interesting one. Patients have been lying in their beds, sitting at their coffee tables, if they're leaning over and putting pressure on their backs, working at the kitchen counters, but any desk that will optimize your ergonomics is a much better choice. Okay, avoid resting your forearms on the corner of the desk because it causes compression in your forearms and in your wrists, and that's where you start to see carpal tunnel. Okay, so chairs we're going to chat about a little bit later as well. And just in terms of monitors, if you are working on 2 screens, try to have them as central as possible so that you're not rotating to one side the whole time and causing a shortening on the one side and a lengthening on the other side. And also, again, don't face the window when you're working. So try and position your desk where the light is coming from the side and you're not facing the light directly. And again, increase your font size, all to reduce eye strain. Another nice tip is to use your television as a monitor. Most of us, or some of us, have bigger television screens than our monitor screens, and that also helps with eye strain. Okay, just as a little side note on performance, you know, a large part of practice is also education, as I mentioned. So we say to our patients, get up, make your bed, and get dressed for the day. So work at home as if you were working in your office. If you start out your day with an accomplishment, then it sets the mood for the whole day. Make to-do lists. And my suggestion is make them before you get to work so that you're not in a hurry at work. Okay, everybody has distractions at home. What are you doing about those distractions? My fiance has recently made me watch the whole series of Lord of the Rings. And so he had a good giggle when he looked at this slide. Okay, so just some organizational tips. Dedicate your time. So separate your time into work and home. And when your time is up, your time is up. Obviously, a lot of us are working a lot longer hours, but I just want to encourage you that your health is also of utmost importance. And if you're not healthy, you can't work properly. You won't have the concentration, you might have pain. And so I want to encourage you to put your health first. Dedicate your workspace, as I've mentioned. So have a dedicated space where you can go quietly, sit away from any distractions if you have the luxury of space, and try and separate those spaces. We've touched on technology. I also want to touch on communication because this has been a massive finding within the pandemic as well. People have gotten really lonely because the only communication they're doing is over devices. So I want to encourage you, pick up the phone your friend. If you're able to meet them for a coffee, taking into account physical distance, then do that because relationships are really important. And also just want to touch on a commitment to personal health. You know, it's a decision. So you have to decide that you want to be healthy and well, and therefore you have to put the right processes in place. And hopefully this webinar today will help you. And then dedicated downtime, like I mentioned, all of us need to rest, and we're going to touch on rest a little bit later. So have some downtime with your family and friends. And if your personality is to recover and recoup on your own, then dedicate some personal downtime where you're not having to answer to anybody or answer the phone, even if it's just 10 or 20 minutes. Okay, let's talk about the actual workstation. Okay, number one, you'll see it's highlighted there in green. Raise your chair until your elbows are at the height of the keyboard. Okay, if you don't raise your chair, what happens is your forearms will sit against the edge of the desk, and that's where you start to develop carpal tunnel. Not only that, but it helps to have a good posture when your chair is at the right height. Make sure your feet are supported on the floor and that your hips are slightly higher than your knees. And the reason we say this is because when your knees are higher than your hips, it's closing your hip angle and it's shortening your hip flexors. When your hip flexors are shortened, it puts major strain on your back because it starts to change the biomechanics again. And so we see this shortening of the one side, lengthening of the other side, and it results in weakness of the lengthened side. So your back actually literally starts to get weak when your hips are closed. Sit as far back in the chair as possible so that you can actually feel the lumbar support. If you don't have the luxury of an ergonomic chair, then roll up a towel and stick it behind your back. Just a practical little tip that will, again, just change the whole biomechanics. Keep your elbows close to your body and your shoulders nice and relaxed. Okay, that sounds like a simple statement, but again, it's quite profound. Your monitor, I've already mentioned rotating to the left and right, but also try and keep it approximately at eye level, maybe a little bit below eye level. We don't want to put this massive strain on the cervical spine. As soon as you dip your chin or you poke your chin forward, your cervical spine is under major pressure. Viewing distance between a ruler and 2 rulers from the eye monitor. And we say this because as you fatigue, you start to dip forward like this. You start to roll over your shoulders, and again, it lengthens the front muscles, it shortens the back muscles, and over time, this can obviously create very hazardous problems in terms of your spine health. Keep the mouse in close proximity alongside the keyboard, and again, this has just got to do with the angles that you sit at, and repetitive tasks on bad angles, again, will create chronic problems. Okay, so what can we do to optimize our desktop? Here are a couple of examples. An electric standing desk. You can sit or stand, obviously increases productivity, it increases your blood flow, it boosts your mood, you're changing positions, it helps with back pain. They are wonderful, they're also very expensive, so there are other options. You can get a desk converter, for example, or you can just move your laptop to a counter for half an hour for the next meeting. Also available are monitor stands. So if you are looking at 2 monitors and rotating your neck from side to side, it's usually in one direction in particular, you can invest in a monitor stand. Standing accessories like a foot pad that helps just to raise your feet a little bit so that your feet are flat, especially for shorter people. Okay, there's an example of the desk converter. And then a big one, and it really is quite a cheap fix, is a laptop stand. It raises the back of the laptop and then it takes the pressure off your neck because you're not looking down as much. So again, inch by inch. Two of my favorite things that I like to prescribe for patients. One is called an upright go posture trainer. It's such a cool little device. You stick it on your back, on your thoracic spine there, and every time you crouch or you go off angle on your posture, it sends a little buzz to you and it reminds you to sit up straight. And I'm thinking of a recent example where I gave it to a 16-year-old boy. When I looked at him, the first thing I thought was, you're developing a kyphosis, which is a rounded thoracic spine. So his parents bought him an upright go. He used it for a couple of weeks. Saw him a couple of weeks later, he had stopped using it, and literally his posture had physically changed. So this is a really nifty little device. It is a little bit expensive, but again, you know, how much are you willing to put towards your health? So if you can afford it, maybe invest in it. And then a slightly cheaper option to help with actual trigger points in your muscles, this little device I give to all my corporate clients. It's such a nifty device. You can hook it onto your chair. And I don't know, you can see the picture's a little bit blurry there, but you can literally use it to release just about any muscle in your body. And it's basically like having an on-site physio when you need an elbow stuck into a sore muscle. So another interesting statistic, 80% of users reported reduced sitting-related pain after switching to an ergonomic chair. I mean, again, it's a massive statistic, which just tells us that the correct sitting postures are really helping with pain-related conditions. If you would like some advice on chairs, then you're welcome to contact me. One of the things, like Mamo mentioned, that I did during the pandemic and as a result of some of the MBA assignments was to set up an e-commerce site for the practice where patients could easily access all of these nifty little accessories that I'm mentioning today. And so you can also just go and search on Google Scholar, and sorry, not Google Scholar, Google Shopping, and it'll obviously provide all the best options there, and you can go and do some research. But if you'd like some specific help, what I usually tell my patients is send me an email with a picture of your desk setup, and I can quickly have a look and see what the major issues are, and change one thing at a time, and let's see if we can try and reduce your pain over time. So working from home, when last did you actually move? I'm sure most of us have started leaving the house now, but when did you actually move last? This is a massive tip that I give to patients, and I actually learned it from one of my patients, is if time is an issue, then tag activities. So tag your exercise activities to certain other activities. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Okay, example 1, between meetings, do 10 squats. You're going to say to you, Tamar, 10 squats isn't going to help me. But if you think about it, if you have 6 meetings a day, you do 10 squats between meetings, that's 60 squats a day, that's 60 times 5 a week, times 4, it's a lot of squats. And it's a lot more than just sitting, so do some squats between meetings. While the kettle is boiling, do some presses with a weight. You can even take your can of food, tin cans of food, and do some presses with the weight. Same idea, if the kettle takes a minute or 2 to boil, you can get quite a few reps in there that time. Okay, suggestion 3, lunge on over to the loo. So every time you need to make a wee, why don't you lunge there? That will help a lot with opening up your hips, will help a lot with strengthening your glutes, which helps with back pain. And suggestion 4, do some calf raises while you're cleaning your teeth. My electric toothbrush takes about 2 minutes, and I can do quite a few calf raises in that time. What I like about calf raises as well, just as a side note, is you have 2 groups of muscles in your calves. You have your gastroc layer, which is the top layer, and then underneath it you have your soleus muscle. And they call the soleus the second heart pump. And so while we may not think it's, just doing some calf raises literally pumps the blood around your body at a phenomenal rate. Okay, suggestion 5, stretch in the bath. The reason I like this suggestion is because the warm water helps to relax your muscles. And I always tell patients, your muscles are like a fizzer. And if you're going to try and stretch a cold fizzer, what's going to happen? It's going to snap. So raise your body temperature by 1, maybe 2 degrees, and then stretch. So go for a short little jog before you stretch instead of stretching a cold muscle. And obviously the warm water is very comforting. And one suggestion that I implement quite regularly, especially during the MBA when time was a little bit less, is I would sit on my bike at home and I would watch a podcast, or I'd watch a lecture, or I would literally sit on my laptop and read some articles. Or maybe have some other ideas of what to do. Maybe you can have a little dance in the lift, or practice some planking while you're entertaining your child. Okay, here's some ideas of some stretches you can do at your desk. If you'd like, I can make this template available to you. What I suggest to patients is stick it up on your wall, stick it up on the side of your screen, and just pick 1 or 2 to do between meetings. You can see it takes 10 to 20 seconds, repeat it twice, and then you've stretched out for the day. So just get into the habit. get into the habits in between meetings, just do something.
Hello, did we lose Tamarr, or is it just my network?
I think we've lost Tamarr. I don't hear anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so in the meantime, maybe we can all share, if anyone wants to share. I see Lori here says, where can one obtain a muscle trigger stick? John, I see you posted something,
Yeah.
a link
Yeah,
from
can you
Wired.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I did. I looked up that thing, the what do you call it, the upright go. I thought, oh, that's weird. But I looked it up. Apparently, it works. You can get a little necklace that dangles down the back. It's a little expensive, I suppose, about $1,500 there. It's not cheap, but it apparently gives you a little buzz. And I'm doing that all the time, you know. And so I think it'll help you sit up. Laurie is interesting because Laurie was in a different. Laurie used to sit on seats for a long time as well. He was an airline pilot, and so they give you very comfortable seats. But you also gonna. I mean, I know the airline pilots are really conscious of these things as well. And I certainly think in this whole lockdown period, where we've been working from home, this stuff is really important. Has anyone else been getting headaches, or I mean, anyone else here has felt any of these symptoms that Tamarr was talking about? You know, just put on your screen or just put a thumbs up. If you want to put a reaction, you go down the bottom of Zoom and there's a little reaction button, and then you press on a button. There you are. Tullis's got it. Yeah, there we go. I've got them as well. So if you want to be interactive, yeah, Fiona, you get them. Fiona Havenhach. Tulsi, I don't know if you do. I find these things quite useful. Has anyone else got any tips while we're waiting for Tamarr to come back about how you might handle this sort of sitting on here, looking at screens all the time and not moving much? Who else got ideas? Oh, Tamarr's back. She'll have ideas. Yeah, you're muted. Oh.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that. We had a Wi-Fi cut there, so I've just changed routers. Okay, so I'm not sure where everybody heard last. I was on consistency. Did everybody hear that part? Hello?
Yeah, we were looking at the pamphlets on desk exercises.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so my next point to that was just that consistency is key, and doing little bits every day over time is the answer. Okay, sorry, we lost a bit of time there. Is everybody okay?
Time is just an existential concern. Apparently, according to Einstein, it doesn't really exist like time and space. So let's just go with it. Time's a dance, not a race.
Cool. Okay, so I just want to chat a little bit about comfort. And this for me is a very important aspect of health. So having a good mattress, there are three important factors. It gives you support, spinal support, pressure relieving sleep surfaces. And this is an important point because if you think about it, we're spending 7 to 8, or should be spending 7 to 8 hours a day resting. And some of us sleep dead. You know, in the hospitals, we see patients that can't move and they end up developing pressure sores over time. And you know, I found myself when I'm lying on my back, just with my heels gently rested on the mattress, I actually get sore heels, and that's maybe an hour or two if I'm sitting doing, I don't know, doing an assignment, a presentation, whatever it is. So that pressure builds up really quickly and it translates into pain. And then thirdly, very importantly, is a neutral spine. So you can see here that a good mattress, it should support the head, the shoulders, the lumbar area, and the aim of a good mattress is to have a neutral spine. Here's some food for thought. What do you spend on your car that you spend maybe 2 or 3 hours a day in? 100,000, 300,000, 500,000 Rand. I'd like to ask you, what have you spent on your mattress? 5,000, 2,000, 20,000? So it's just some food for thought, because we spend maybe 2 or 3 hours a day in a car and we spend 7 or 8 hours a day sleeping. So would you say that a good mattress is potentially a good investment? Life is stressful enough. Let's allow our bodies to rest and recover properly. If you're not getting good sleep, you're just not prepared for the next day. Let's talk about pillow picking.
Sorry, before you continue, are you
Hello?
still showing your slides?
Let's have a look. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
We might have missed,
Sorry,
we might have
guys.
missed a couple, yeah.
Yes, let's just go back quickly. So
Yeah.
just in terms of food for thought, what do your mattresses look like, and how are they supporting your spine? And as I said, how much are you investing in a good mattress and actually ultimately in your spine? Okay, so this is what a mattress should do. It should support your back, your neck, your hips, your thighs, your feet. Okay. Let's chat about pillow picking, and this comes up on a daily basis in practice. Patients ask me, what pillow should I choose and how do I choose a pillow? Okay, here's how you choose a pillow. Pick a pillow that is going to give you a neutral spine. Again, then they say, no, but I like to sleep on 2 or 3 pillows. And then I say, well, I'm sorry, I know it's really comfortable, but please pick a pillow that you're going to have a neutral spine. And the one that I recommend is the memory foam pillows. And the reason for that is it literally takes the weight of your head and it sinks to a point where your spine is neutral. So don't have too high a pillow and don't have too low a pillow. And just as a side note, sleeping on your stomach is detrimentally bad for your spine. And the reason for that is we need to be able to breathe, and so we turn our heads to one side, and usually a side, and lengthening on the other side. Another nice thing that's also underrated, we provide these to all of our patients, is wheaty heaties. Many people that are stressed, they clench their jaws. And jaw pain leads to headaches, productivity. So we say to them, just get a beanbag, a wheaty heaty, pop it in the microwave, put it around your neck and allow it to rest on your jaw. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, so what I want to say around this topic is that there are so many supplements that so many people are going to recommend. And a lot of them have a lot of good, depending on where you are at. What I will tell you is the 2 supplements that anything else, I still think a multivitamin is good. Although having said that, my brother sent me an article this week about vitamins not actually having a long-term positive benefit. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. I found that they do help. So here are the 2 supplements that I recommend. Omega-3 fish oils. Okay, and there's a brand called The Real Thing. You can get it at Dischem. What we're looking at with omega-3s particularly is the ratio of EPA versus DHA, and those are acids in the fish oils that we're looking for. Okay, the reason we want a good ratio is because we want to address inflammatory risk factors. a lot of pain is revolving around inflammation. And so if we attack the inflammation, then we can address the pain. Also, interestingly, there's potential protection against the development of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Okay. They do say, however, that a 1-to-1 ratio is better if you've got a liver condition. So if you have a liver condition, then look for a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, you'll see the ratio on the tin. Look for a good ratio, and if you're asking for a good brand, this is the one I'll recommend. Okay, importantly though, dietary sources are the best avenue for obtaining essential fatty acids. Okay, so if you ask me what should I eat, I'll tell you salmon. And I know it's expensive. Eat it whenever you can eat it, because salmon and cod liver have a higher DHA and EPA ratio. Okay, sardines have equal amounts of DHA and EPA. So it's interesting because, you know, sardines are obviously a lot cheaper, salmon's a lot more expensive. So there's a reason why. Salmon is obviously a more sought after, you know, looking at the supply chain and all of that, obviously it's more sought after, it's going to be more expensive, but if you can afford it, please eat it. So just some other fish that have a good DHA EPA ratio is herring, Manhattan, Pacific herring, and Chinook salmon, sorry. They have incredibly high ratios. Okay, so we've chatted a little bit about neurotoxicity, which is at the bottom here, which leads to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Okay, interesting over here, if you look, higher DHA and EPA ratios significantly reduce cell death in human neuroblastoma cells, and they increase the expression of nerve growth factors. So they literally help your nerves to grow, and this is how they stop the progression of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Okay, we've discussed inflammatory pathways. If we can limit those inflammatory pathways, we can limit pain. And then interestingly, cognitive processes and neurological development, okay, concentration, mood, all of those things, memory, omega-3s help with those things. Okay, the second supplement I recommend is a collagen. Okay, the one I recommend to my patients, it's an imported collagen, so it's a little bit more expensive. But the reason I like it is, one, it has no side effects, and it provides pretty much everything else that I would otherwise recommend to patients. So it's got zinc, it's got a whole range of vitamin Bs, it's got magnesium, and it's also got vitamin C. And so the important things that collagen helps with is the function of bones. Okay, it decreases joint rigidity and mobility pain. Okay, it also helps with the nice things that us females all love, is your skin and your hair and your general well-being. You just look better. And I can tell you, in the few years that I've been recommending this particular product, I literally start to see differences between 2 and 6 weeks of taking this product. Some interesting examples is I had a patient who bought it for her mom. Her mom had shoulder pain, and she came back 2 weeks later and said that her psoriasis had actually reduced. So psoriasis is a skin condition. Okay, not only that, but it also helped with shoulder pain. Okay, I've had other patients who their skin is completely cleared. And again, for me, that helps with self-worth. It helps with, you know, just if you look good, you feel good. So, and then importantly, the biggest things is I see patients that take this product regularly. Okay, let me just say that I'm not saying it's a one size fits all, it's going to fix all the problems, but I am saying what I've seen in practice is that many patients who have taken it regularly, they get to a stage where they're like, oh, it's a little bit expensive, so I'm going to stop taking it. They stop taking it, and then they're back later in my rooms with pain again. And so when I start to fish and find out where's the pain coming from, why is it coming back, very often it's been because they've stopped taking their collagen. So take it, don't take it, but if you can afford it, I would definitely again recommend it. And you want to get a collagen that's hydrolyzed, which means it's broken down by water, because then it's easily absorbable by the stomach. Okay, it doesn't help if you take a cheap collagen that your stomach actually can't absorb. Okay, so back to the 8 dimensions of wellness. Chatted a bit about physical. I'm going to chat a little bit more about that, and then I want to make 1 or 2 comments on occupational. Then I want to make 1 comment on emotional, and we'll be done. Okay, just some tips for physical exercise, and this is not talking about stretching at your desk or doing, you know, range of movements exercises between activities. I'm talking about actually putting some clothes on and exercising. The Heart Foundation recommends 3 sessions of 30 minutes minimum per week. Okay, and I just want to encourage you, just keep moving. Whatever you do, don't stop. I've mentioned a TED talk over here that's, I know we're running out of time, but just quickly, basically the theme of the talk was what you prioritize, you will make time for. So I want to ask you what.
So Tamarr, sorry to interrupt, but as we were a little bit delayed with that break, is everyone okay to go over for maybe 10 minutes? Would that be okay? I didn't want to rush you. I mean, if people
What are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing your health? You're definitely going to make time. Hey, if you've got a pain or
No problem.
sure, no problem. Okay, so can I quickly run through the rest of the slides, or should we go straight to questions?
Just go through all the slides.
Yeah, I just finished the slides tomorrow. I think that's fine. That's very interesting.
Comment about food. Food is a fuel to your body. We all love food, but I want to encourage you to rethink food. You're not going to put petrol in a diesel car. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, and we have, so just know that you need to empower yourself to eat the right things. Okay, do I have time to chat about water, or can I skip to the? Okay, just quickly. Water is really important because it regulates. Wanting to know how much water to drink, there's an interesting website that's called Hydration for Health. They literally work out how much water you need to drink as an individual based on all of your numbers. So your weight, your height, your gender, even your country, because they're taking into account climate. So if you'd like that link, then I can share it with you. Okay, and as a manager, what can you do for your organization? Okay, do you have ergonomics programs in place? Does your organization periodically evaluate ergonomics and related hazards? Okay, are there processes, systems, and incentives in place to encourage early injury reporting? Okay, do you provide equipment to your remote workers? Are you allowing employees to purchase equipment for their home if they're working from home? Okay, and do you have ergonomic guidelines for setting up a home office? Okay, and do you have a process for workers to report discomfort? Okay, these are seemingly simple questions, but they're important. Okay, again, your people are your assets. And then just one thing I want to say about emotional health, and this for me is something massive, is the word forgiveness. So it's probably come as a bit of a side note, but I just want to say that studies have found that the act of forgiving people can reap huge rewards in your health. So it lowers the risk of heart attack, it improves cholesterol levels, it improves your sleep, it reduces pain, it reduces your blood pressure, it reduces your anxiety, depression, stress, all these things. So I just want to ask, are you harboring any unforgiveness? And maybe it's just something to mull on a little bit. And just remember that forgiveness is actually for yourself, it's not for the other person. If you are battling, then seek professional help and forget the stigma that's attached, because most people have struggled somewhere along their journey with an emotional battle. And so there really is no stigma in seeking help. And Henley is very good with providing resources to help you with problems that you're going through, tough times. They've got psychologists on board, and like you see, we're doing these family-friendly webinars. So use the resources that are available for you, and chat to your course coordinators or however you're involved with Henley, and use the resources that are given. They're there for a reason. When life gets you down, just got to keep swimming. Do we have any questions? I'm just having a look at the comments here.
Tamarr, while you take questions, can I ask that you please stop sharing?
Yeah, sure. Okay, there we go. Okay, if you're allergic, what's the substitute? Mama, what were you referring to there?
Oh, you were talking about salmon and sardines.
Oh, yes. Okay, correct. That's a very good question. So, sure, you caught me off guard a little bit. I didn't expect that question. We actually do have some patients that are allergic. Mama, can I get back to you on that one? It's a very good question. Right now, an answer is not coming to mind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so obviously our main goal with the omega-3 fish oils is inflammation and cognitive processes, but it does support many different immune functions and many different organs. So I would off the cuff think that we would obviously use other supplements and things to address those specific elements that the omega-3s help with. But I'll get back to you on that one if that's okay. If I think of anything specific.
Awesome, thanks. And then there was a question earlier around where people can shop for some of the tools that you shared earlier. The stakes.
Okay, perfect. So yes, sure. So I will share the websites with you that I created. This is what I send to my patients. It's called Dare to Care, and it's got everything that I mentioned. That's everything that I recommend for my patients, and everything that I've mentioned today is on that website. But again, I said to Mamo, you know, I want to use this as a marketing tool, but a helpful tool. And so, you know, do your research. You're welcome to contact me for questions. I'm happy to point you in the direction for whatever your need is. And Google shopping is also very helpful, just to have a look at the different options that you have available to you. Are there any possible or known side effects of collagen? At this stage, no. Research hasn't brought up any contraindications, which is also another reason I really like, especially the liquid collagen. It also tastes nice for me, that's a big thing. I personally don't like the powder supplements. So yeah, at this stage, no, it's even safe for diabetics. Are there any other questions that I missed?
I think somebody was going to ask a question. Yeah, somebody's trying to stick your hand. Who's asking there? I can't see.
Tamarr, I'm unable to put up my hand. I don't know why. Can you maybe hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Fiona here. You basically referred to omega-3 when you had your examples. And tell me the combination of 3, 6, and 9. Is that a good one? Because mostly, you know, I will buy the tablets where you have the 3, 6, and 9 and sort of take 2 a day type of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a really great question. And it's one that I get asked very often. So you actually don't need the combination of omega-3, 6, and 9 because our body naturally produces omega-6 and 9, and it can actually be detrimental to your body if you take too much of that. So what we want to replace is the one that we don't produce, and that's omega-3s. So
We've lost.
I don't know if that answers your question. You did break up a little bit. But can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Tamarr.
Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions?
Angie says, and omegas for kids. Okay, is that me or has we lost Tamarr suddenly?
Sorry,
Yeah,
John, I
we
lost you
her.
there.
So yeah, the question was omegas for kids, Tamarr.
Omegas for kids, definitely. Yeah, kids will also benefit. Also, omega-3s. It's beneficial for the kids as well, and it just helps keep the joints nice and lubricated. And that's another whole topic of discussion, but ergonomics around kids. I want to encourage you, if you have kids as well, to look at the ergonomics.
Okay, Tamarr, I think you're popping in and out now. So just drop any questions.
Apply the same principles in terms of raising your chairs.
So Tamarr, your connection's going in and out. So I think it's failing a bit. So maybe we'll wrap up with Mamo, eh?
Perfect.
All right, sorry about that, Tamarr, but thank you so much for such an insightful session. I'm definitely keen as well on perhaps getting guidelines that managers can start implementing in their own workplaces as well. You know, I think that could be very powerful because when you work from home, it is quite lonely. So any guidelines and tips would be helpful, and definitely look forward to putting up those desk exercises up my wall as well. So thank you so much, and we'll definitely share the recording and some of the resources that Tamarr mentioned, and we'll put it up in our alumni groups as well. But yeah, thank you so much and have a good afternoon. John, if you have any closing remarks, now's the time. Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. That was absolutely marvelous, you know, and a great advice about supplements and all that. And of course, I just have to say that there's a lot of research about supplements, some good, some bad. So do your research and ask your doctor or medical practitioners about that, because we have to do that caveat. So it's really great. So please, you've done this. So Tamarr, that was wonderful.